Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Evening News for today, Monday, May 16, 2022. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. President Ali announces free fertilizer for farmers, $25,000 for hinterland households, removal of VAT on more. Police training in basic firefighting helps to avert major disaster at CID headquarters. OPR warns that complainants against cops could also be investigated. Body of missing man recovered 3 days after CANJE boat mishap. Region 2 officials under fire for approving payments for pump house that does not exist. And millions unaccounted for in GWI'S 2017-2018 audits. Now for the news in detail. Further demonstrating his government's commitment to bringing relief to all sections of society amid the rising cost of living triggered by global events, President Dr. Irfan Ali today announced several new groundbreaking measures. These exciting initiatives are in addition to a wide range of measures already implemented by the PVPC administration to provide assistance to the public during these trying times. And according to President Ali, consultations are ongoing to come up with more ways in which the government can continue to help the population. Here's a look.
Cash grant to households in riverine and hinterland communities. First, in order to bring relief to those households facing extreme hardship, my government will be providing a special one-off grant of $25,000 to every single household in riverine and hinterland communities. This will place an additional $800 million at the disposal of these households who have been particularly affected by recent rises in cost of living. The cost of fertilizer has affected the production costs for farmers, which has translated into increased prices on the market. So the second measure I wish to look at is fertilizer support to farmers. In order to cushion the impact of the rising cost of fertilizer on farmers and to limit the pass-through to food prices, my government will be purchasing $1 billion worth of fertilizer for free distribution to farmers for use in their planting and replanting activities. Considering that fertilizer accounts for between 15% to 30% of the total operating costs for farmers, this initiative will significantly reduce input costs and help ensure scaled-up production and adequate supply of output, which is critical to maintaining price stability. Many households who now have a house lot encounter huge challenges managing the process of constructing their home. That is, of course, perfectly understandable, because managing construction of a house is not a trivial task, considering that most of these families have absolutely no prior experience in home construction, and that they're, in any event, already occupied with the day-to-day demands of work and family life. In order to help Guyanese families who have a government-allocated or privately owned house lot, not necessarily in a government-developed housing scheme, but who have thus far been unable to build on their lot, the government is proposing to launch a home construction assistance facility, which will work in the following manner. Persons who have a house lot and wish to receive government help to construct a home on that lot may register their interest with a unit that will be establishing soon for this purpose. At the time of registration, the applicant will also select the preference from among 3 standard pre-designed models at a cost of $7 million, $9 million, and $12 million, depending on the applicant income level. Government will support the applicant through the process of applying for bank financing to meet the cost of constructing the home, and will also look at helping in the initial phase of construction by the releasing of resources to expedite the construction process and help in bringing the banks, the homeowners together so that you can own your own home. Now, government will also undertake the construction of home on behalf of the applicant and deliver to the applicant a complete home in accordance with the option selected. The next measure I wish to announce is the removal of VAT on additional construction material. As you know, we have already removed VAT on a wide range of basic construction material. Most recently, we removed VAT on cement to reduce the cost of this critical input in home construction. We are now proposing to extend the removal of VAT to sheetrock and concrete board until the market stabilizes. This measure is expected to cost $100 million annually, but will provide critical additional relief to persons constructing their homes, in keeping with our government's strong commitment to make home ownership affordable to every single Guyanese family. Fellow Guyanese, together, the above initiatives represent just the latest installment of measures that my government is proposing to implement to improve the lives of all Guyanese people. We will, of course, continue our close engagement and consultations with communities across the country, and remain committed to addressing the needs and concerns of all the people of this beautiful country of ours.
What could have been a major catastrophe following the detection of smoke emanating from a building at the Criminal Investigations Department headquarters was this morning averted, and this win is being attributed to the basic firefighting training of police officers who were on duty at the time. Amar Prasad reports.
At around 10 hours on Monday, smoke was seen emanating from the ceiling of the Crime Laboratory department attached to the Criminal Investigations Department headquarters. What could have been a major disaster was averted due to the quick response by police officers as well as firefighters. Fire Chief Acting Gregory Wickham says the police's training in basic firefighting helped in putting out the blaze.
I want to give shout out, thanks and good work to the members of the police force who would have used the training that they would have received from the Ghana Fire Service in doing basic firefighting with the use of fire extinguishers. That would have helped to keep the fire under control until the arrival of the fire service.
5 fire tenders responded to the fire, 2 from the Central Fire Station, 1 from Albertown Fire Station, 1 from Campbellville Fire Station, and 1 from West Rumvelt Fire Station.
On arrival of the first appliance, smoke and fire was seen emanating from a particular room, and so the fire service was able to gain entrance into that room, find the seat of the fire, put it out.
Neither Commissioner of Police Acting nor Wickham could have pronounced on the damages caused as a result of the minor blaze. The fire chief is hoping that the damages would be minimal.
I'm hoping that at the end of this exercise, there would not be much damage that would have been done by fire, neither by the water. And so also at the conclusion of this firefighting exercise, our investigators will be going in to do their investigative work, and I'm certain they will be able to come up with the cause of this fire.
This fire comes on the heels of the blaze that destroyed the Force's Office of Professional Responsibility building in November 2021, and the fire which destroyed the Brickdam Police Station in October of that year. For the Evening News, Amar Prasad.
While assuring that it is committed to conducting thorough probes after receiving complaints from the public about errant police officers, the Office of Professional Responsibility has cautioned that the complainants can be equally investigated for wrongdoings. Amar Prasad joins again with the details.
Head of the Office of Professional Responsibility, Elson Beard, during a recent social media program produced by the Guyana Police Force, revealed that when conducting probes, complainants are also subjected to being investigated. He warned that if complainants are found to have resisted arrest, refused to comply, or even assaulted ranks, they too can face the consequences.
The police would use whatever force necessary as required by training to effect those arrests. And sometimes persons would think that the forces may be excessive. They would come to the office and make complaints. We would investigate those matters. Once we find that the police would have executed their duties and whatever, let's say, the force used was necessary given the circumstances, all of those issues will be highlighted in our reports. And if it is that we find that the persons who were arrested or who prevented the arrest assault the police, for example, or resist that arrest, those recommendations would be also made for them to be charged.
Beard assured that his comments are not meant to scare away persons from filing complaints against their errant police officers, but he indicated that there should not be no abuse of the system.
So I don't want to confine people, or to make it appear as if I'm saying that once you and the police have a confrontation, you're not going to come to us because you're likely to be charged. We have to do an investigation. And once that is established, then the charges are going to be recommended.
Meanwhile, the OPR head underscored the importance of the work of his office, noting that it is meant to identify breaches in the execution of police officers' duties and make recommendations on how to improve the way cops deal with certain situations.
The function of the OPR is not only there to investigate complaints and ensure that police are disciplined, but to also identify breaches, policies. We can come up with some training and all the necessary. So that's one of the things I want to make clear. But to answer the question with regard to how the ranks would feel when they leave the OPR, I'm confident that most of the times that when we finish explaining to them our role or responsibility and why you're here, and it's not only to make you to feel guilty or to ensure that you're charged, but to find something, then I would say, put something upon you. No, we're not there to give you trouble. We're there to highlight the problems, and in some cases I would sit and counsel ranks.
So far for the year, the OPR has received 197 complaints about ranks. This is a major increase compared to last year, which saw only 97 complaints. For the evening news, Amar Prasad.
Our Berbice correspondent, Andrew Carmichael, joins us now to report that the body of an ex-police officer was this morning fished out of the CANJE River. The man was missing following a boat mishap on Saturday. Here's more.
The dead man has been identified as 29-year-old Kevin Franz of Lot 2, Manchester Village, Quarantine. He would have celebrated his 30th birthday today, Monday, March 16, 2022. The dead man's body was fished out of the CANJE River following a boat mishap on Saturday. Reports are that Franz, along with two of his cousins, ages 28 and 35 years old, along with a 52-year-old man and the boat operator, 62, boarded a 14-foot boat, Simplicity, being powered by a 50-horsepower outboard engine and headed to Benab, which is along the CANJE River. The men were reportedly on an expedition to make checks on cattle belonging to Ronald Victor. While they were in the vicinity of New Forest Village, there were two boats coming in the opposite direction ahead of Simplicity, and as they passed, the waves from the boats caused Simplicity to capsize. Four of the men, Kenton Tyndall, Marley Grant, Paul Tyndall, and Cecil Chisholm, managed to swim to shore. However, upon checking, it was observed that Franz was missing. According to Franz's aunt, Natasha Williams, with whom he lived, her nephew left home shortly after 6 hours to go with a cousin to the CANJE River to do some work for that cousin. She later received information that there was an accident and the others were able to survive.
Your cousin, that they have cows planting farms and so at the CANJE Creek.
Okay.
So you want him like to go and work there. Yes, so like your cousin carried him to see the place. They went on Friday, the day before they went before.
Okay.
But he go off the same time in the morning and he came back after 2 in the afternoon.
The body was discovered the same spot where the incident allegedly occurred. Police had initially arrested the other boat crew, most of whom are family members.
And the entirely family grieving right now. We all feel pain. And we hoping that whenever we get a postmortem from the body, then we can give you all proper information. Everybody just grieving. Nobody would have coped, as though it was normal. But everybody just grieving and all feeling pain. So we gotta say thank God that we found the body.
What is the family hoping would happen moving forward in terms of investigation?
Well, what I could say is that we hope for the best.
After leaving the police force, Franz was employed with a private security company but was unemployed for the past 6 months.
Had any plans for his birthday?
Yeah, he had plans because his mother, they're overseas.
Okay.
They send a box with stuff for him. So yesterday morning he come upstairs and he's showing us that we're closing the way tomorrow on his birthday.
France was a father of a 4-year-old child. Andrew Carmichael, The Evening News.
Draft amendments to the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act as well as the Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Amendment Bill have been approved by the Cabinet with a view to toughening up on the penalties for drunk drivers and the bars that serve them. Fiona Morrison tells us more.
Attorney General Anil Nandalal says these proposed changes to the law are in response to a large number of motor vehicular accidents, including fatal ones, which can be traced to drunken driving. According to the Attorney General, he will be leading off the government's consultations with important national stakeholders on the bills, as well as interested members of the public. The draft legislation states that any person who causes the death of another person by the driving of a motor vehicle on the road or other public place while under the influence of a drink or a drug to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle shall be guilty of motor manslaughter and shall be liable on conviction on indictment to a term of imprisonment of not less than 10 years. Also proposed is a 3-year ban on convicted persons for obtaining or holding a driver's license after their release from prison. A second conviction of a similar offense will lead to the person being permanently disqualified. During the court process, the suspect will also be required to surrender their license, failure of which will result in a fine of $100,000 or imprisonment for 3 months. The draft law also proposes the penalty for driving over the alcohol limit, replacing the $7,500 fine with $200,000 and the sentence of 12 months with 24 months. Meanwhile, it has also been proposed that the penalty for driving under the influence and losing control of your vehicle be increased from its current $30,000 to $60,000 fine and imprisonment for 12 months to $200,000 for first-time offenders and $300,000 for second-time offenders. Another amendment could see liquor establishments facing heavy fines for selling alcohol to persons who are already intoxicated and then drink and drive. Under the new proposed law, bars will be required to post signs warning against drinking and driving on their premises, as well as making regular announcements on the premises against persons drinking and driving. Meanwhile, Section 56 amendment to the Principal Act increases fines for liquor owners breaching the provision from $3,000 to $100,000. Fiona Merson, The Evening News.
New York-based Guyanese artist Kurt C.J. Johnson was gunned down on Sunday morning during a robbery as he was leaving a party in New Jersey. The singer-producer, according to information received, was shot multiple times. He reportedly died immediately on the spot. Johnson was listed among the group of Guyanese singers to perform at the Guyana Day celebrations in New York in August. He had migrated to the U.S. in 2002 and got involved in the music industry almost immediately, launching his own record label and a number of singles over the years. Coming up, millions unaccounted for in GWI'S 2017-2018 audits, and Guyanese being sought out by foreign companies to forge partnerships, says VP. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
The Government of Guyana, in collaboration with CARICOM, will be hosting its premier Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. Don't miss the opportunity to showcase your products and services, network with local, regional, and international businesses and investors, and gain invaluable knowledge and exposure from pioneers in the agriculture industry. It's the first ever Agri-Investment Forum and Expo from the 19th to the 21st of May at the Arthur Chung Convention Center. Looking to bring your dream home to reality or simply taking on a home improvement project? Then National Hardware Limited is where you should start. Let us put that touch to your home. Choose from over 1,000 Berger Paint original hues for any surface. We are known for our trusted brands such as Westinghouse, Philips, Satco, Rubbermaid, Pyrex, Gibson Home, and so much more. National Hardware Limited, your do-it-best store, located in downtown Georgetown and industrial site Rhymeville.
They are ready for the job. Rip and tear. Rip and tear, boys. Rip and tear. Yes, dears, rip and tear. You are ready for the job. Bloodline. Bloodline. Criminal genes, especially bred by awful genes. Criminal genes, especially bred by awful genes. Call him on 624 3774. 624 3774.
Plans are moving forward for the establishment of the landmark gas-to-energy project. Gas will be piped from the Stabroek block operations to shore. The project is expected to cut electricity rates by more than half and deliver significant benefits.
Get in the game, get in the game, get in the game with Buster, play.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, Xbox X Series. Just purchase any bottle of Buster, Turbo, Altitude, Classic, or Viva and look for the code on the bottle. Then visit Buster Instagram and Facebook at Buster Guyana for more details.
It happens. Your septic tank is full. All the waste from your toilet goes into your septic tank through the sewage line. When your tank is full, the two most common indicators are an overflowing tank and an overflowing toilet. It is recommended that SILVIE'S Waste Management empty your septic tank every 2 to 3 years to avoid any embarrassment. And before you can say, shh, it's gone. Call SILVIE'S Waste Management today at 218-1455 or 218-1156.
With the approval of each new oil production project offshore, more jobs and opportunities are created onshore. And not just for those working in the oil and gas sector, more Guyanese are providing support services in transportation, catering, logistics, accommodation and hospitality, among many others. Oil and gas development is fueling Guyana's transformation.
Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Completed audit reports for financial activities at the Guyana Water Incorporated throughout the years of 2017 and 2018 have cited unaccountability for millions of dollars. Find out more in this Rupasina report.
Chief Executive Officer of GWI Sheikh Baksh informed at a press conference on Friday that the company's 2017 and 2018 audits have since been sent to the Office of the Auditor General. According to him, there were two main areas of discrepancies.
It's poor management of the inventory. They could not account for the inventory in some areas, and this was so large that it led to a qualified opinion by the auditors, both in 17 and 2017. So the inventory, you can't account for millions of dollars of inventory. And also the whole question of the debt, the customer's debt a lot of gray areas on what was the debt of the customers, so they qualified their accounts for that. The auditors could not account and GWI because of the storage problems too. You know, you store millions of dollars in chemicals, for example, here at Shelter Belt, and when the auditors go to check on it, it was difficult. We have streamlined all of that. They can walk in there today and they will be able to count every item. And remember, the cost for chemicals to treat the water is huge.
Meanwhile, the company is now working on the 2019 audit report and is eyeing completion this year. The CEO insisted that the new management, installed back in 2020, is striving for greater accountability by ensuring that audits and other financial records are up to date.
We are working on 2019 right now, and this should be completed by September, October. And then we're at the same time working on the 2020-2021 financial statements, so that by the end of the year, we're hoping, all things being equal, that we can complete and be up to date with our financial reporting. This is important for any company, any organization, and including GWI.
The CEO added that the company's finances are now in order through proper management. Rupa Sinarayan, The Evening News.
The Public Accounts Committee today probed payments that were approved by Region 2 officials for a pump house that does not exist and a pump that was not delivered. Here are the details from Jarrell Bryan.
The Auditor General had flagged overpayments on a contract for a water trestle at Karawab Health Center in his 2017 report. There was also an issue with money that was approved for a pump and a pump station in Region 2. However, neither of these items can be found. During PAC's statutory meeting on Monday, Region 2's Regional Executive Officer Susanna Sewak and her officials were none the wiser as to the whereabouts of the pump or pump station. The REO admitted, however, that verifications were not made before payments were approved.
It's very clear that verification was not made, but how is it possible? Well, you were not there at the time, but you don't have any information as to why, in perusing the record, why is it that payments would have been approved for the payment of a pump that was never bought or installed?
Through the chair, no, sir. I do not have documents to say otherwise.
Same paragraph, Mr. Chairman. And this one is glaring. The bill of quantities provide for the construction of a pump house. Payments were processed and paid to the contractor for this pump house, but there is no pump house to be found by the Auditor General Office. Again, this one is bigger than the pump. How is it possible for payments to be made for a pump house that was never constructed?
It was also related by the REO that the signatures of the regional engineer, the superintendent of works, as well as the Region 2 vice chair at the time were affixed to the certificate of completion. A decision was therefore taken to have these officers make an appearance before the PAC at its next meeting.
Again, I make the point. The person who visited the site placed their signature as the guiding document to the REO. So the REO sat in his office, received a document with signatures of 3 persons. The engineer, the superintendent of work, and the vice chairman.
We need to summon
the works committee chairman.
We need to summon all 3.
I don't disapprove of that.
Those officers who signed off on an invisible project.
Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
The emergence of new forms of media and journalistic practices is something that should be embraced by the traditional media, says Minister within the Office of Prime Minister Kwame McCoy. His remarks come on the heels of concerns expressed by the Guyana Press Association regarding social media influencers and the threat they pose to true journalism. Here is Jarrell Bryan again with the details.
Minister with responsibility for public affairs Kwame McCoy made his remarks during a reception held by the Canadian High Commission for members of the media. In his address, McCoy expressed the view that the emergence of new forms of media, which include social media influencers, is not a bad thing.
The advent of social media with several dynamic platforms constantly metamorphizing and captivating rather the attention of our youth, and also reaching older persons in our society, the generations, with increasing effectiveness and ease by the day, indeed creates an indisputable reality that the traditional media faces competition and challenges with respect to the technology and the social platforms. But what are we to do about this phenomenon? For societies to grow, in my view, dialogue, change, and evolution must be embraced.
According to McCoy, failure to embrace the new can in the long term lead to a loss of relevance.
Protectionism by some countries around the world in the face of globalization produce debilitating retrogressive impacts on their economies in some cases, and drove wedges in relations among international communities in others. This must be instructive for the fourth estate, which appears to be threatened by the possible creation of a sub-estate within its ranks. But let's be both reasonable and pragmatic in examining this dilemma being faced right here in Guyana. I wish to posit that the existence and growth of the traditional media and new media or social media need not be treated as mutually exclusive.
In an address of his own at the reception, veteran journalist Dennis Chabral was critical of these social media influences.
It's in its truest form, journalism, like other professions, is governed by ethics and principles in pursuit of the truth for the public's interest. Therefore, what has changed are the channels of communication, not the rules of journalism. Balance, fairness, accuracy, research, context, the right of reply, sensitivities in reporting about gender, children, and sexual offenses. From that inexhaustible list, it is fair to conclude that what is regarded by content providers as, and some content consumers as journalism, or truth provided via social media, means that journalism is on the siege.
In a recent statement, the Guyana Press Association had warned that if politicians across the divide have any interest in improving journalism standards, then they ought to immediately stop using social media influencers in the place of journalists. The GPA had noted that to continue doing so is to contribute to the degradation of journalism at the altar of expediency of reach, likes, and shares. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
Describing the Local Content Act that the People's Progressive Party civic government passed last year as a game changer for Guyanese, Vice President Bara Jagdeo has revealed that foreign companies are now actively seeking out local companies with which they can form a partnership. More in this report.
Vice President Bara Jagdeo made this revelation during an appearance on a diaspora broadcast program. According to Jagdeo, the government saw the passage of the local content legislation as a way of making sure that Guyanese could reap the benefits of the oil and gas industry. He noted that even today, Guyanese individuals and companies are reaping those benefits, and that foreign companies looking to invest in Guyana are actively seeking partnerships with locals.
We had to get a legislative framework. We passed a tough law now that created huge opportunities for Guyanese and Guyanese companies. And you should just ask the people, the Guyanese companies here now, that the foreigners are busy running them down when they were treating them with disdain. Because now there's a benefit to partnering with a Guyanese company. And in fact, we have special carve-outs. For example, transportation, rentals of buildings that run into hundreds of millions of US dollars of business that can exclusively be done by Guyanese. You know, security services, all of those issues.
Describing the Local Content Act signed into law last year as a game changer, Jagdeo noted that this law completely changed the landscape and how foreign companies interact with Guyanese companies. This, he noted, is a promise fulfilled by the government.
I urge your viewers to look at how powerful that legislation is and how it has changed the landscape in terms of shifting things to Guyanese now and Guyanese companies in the private sector and building capacity there and employment opportunities.
The Local Content Act lays out 40 different services that oil and gas companies and their subcontractors must procure from Guyanese companies by the end of 2022. It also mandates penalties for oil and gas companies and their subcontractors who fail to meet the minimum targets of the legislation, as well as those who are in breach of the Act. These fines range from as low as $5 million to as high as $50 million. Meanwhile, the government has also set up a local content registry, in keeping with the Local Content Act, which mandates the creation of a local content register of Guyanese nationals for employment, and a register of Guyanese nationals and companies from which goods and services may be procured. In keeping with this mandate, 2 registration options are available, namely supplier registration and employment registration.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demerara Harbor Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Tuesday, May 17 at 3 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Tuesday, May 17 at 17 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours.
Shabazz, biblically inspired ahead of Nations League, and GTI UG LTI record wins at Basketball League. Details of these stories and more in the Sportcast, sponsored by MacCorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
The government of Guyana, in collaboration with CARICOM, will be hosting its premier Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. Don't miss the opportunity to showcase your products and services, network with local, regional, and international businesses and investors, and gain invaluable knowledge and exposure from pioneers in the agriculture industry. It's the first ever Agri-Investment Forum and Expo from the 19th to the 21st of May at the Arthur Chung Convention Center.
At John Lewis Styles, we carry only first quality men's and women's clothing, footwear, and accessories. As authorized dealers, our items come directly from the manufacturing brands and are available in all sizes and colors. What we sell was never on display in another store. It's time you know the truth about what you buy. Come visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Supervet safety tips to help fight COVID-19. Practice regular washing of hands with soap and water or alcohol-based solution. Remember to always wear your mask whenever in public areas to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces daily with soap and water or detergent. Practice physical distancing by staying at least 6 feet away from others. Supervet cares about you. Let's help keep each other safe.
The government of Guyana, in collaboration with CARICOM, will be hosting its premier Agri-Investment Forum and Expo. Don't miss the opportunity to showcase your products and services, network with local, regional, and international businesses and investors, and gain invaluable knowledge and exposure from pioneers in the agriculture industry. It's the first ever Agri-Investment Forum and Expo from the 19th to the 21st of May at the Arthur Chung Convention Center.
Ultra Lubricants, the leading lubricants for tropical conditions, has been serving you for over 40 years, extending the life cycle of your vehicle's engine by protecting it from wear and corrosion, removes impurities, and reducing frequent vehicle oil changes. Ultra Lubricants is for every market, from two-wheel light vehicle to trucks, construction, agriculture equipment, mining activities, and boating. Ultra Lubricants, world-class lubricants for tropical conditions. Distributed by Industrial Supply of Guyana, Inc., and available nationwide.